Hi, it's Jerry Butler here. It's 12 noon Winnipeg time, 11 or 1 East Coast. So we're going to get started. Um, I'm hoping everybody can hear me. I'm not quite sure how to do this. But I believe there's a way for you to ask questions, and I'll see it written. And then,
Just turn video on.
oh, sorry.
Turn off the video.
How do I do that? How do we do that?
Stop the video. There we go.
Okay.
And then, yeah, you can see questions if they pop up right here.
Oh, okay.
And you're good.
Okay, so go ahead. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I'm here today to talk about the 4 steps to build a strategic business plan.
It's space bar. Click on here. There you go.
Just briefly, I'll tell you a little bit about Queenston, if you don't know. We basically specialize in consulting and transitions in the financial advice industry, valuations, consulting. If an advisor wants to move from one dealer platform to another, we assist in that. And certainly mergers and acquisitions, buying and selling, and partnerships in the industry. Okay, so as we get into this, there's one basic premise, and that is the variables that determine a valuation and or price are 3 things. Number 1, transition risk. How many clients are going to leave if the ownership changes? Number 2, is the business set up to have some potential for future growth? And 3, supply and demand, most of which individually we don't have control over, but there are certain things we can do in our business so that they are more attractive to buyers. So as we go through this, try and remember these. I'll briefly mention them throughout because it's very important when you're trying to design a plan to increase the value of your business. Okay, there's 4 steps to develop a strategic business plan. Step 1, goals and objectives. Basically, where do you want to go? Step 2 is a situation review, operation audit, market overview, and SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is what I'm going to concentrate on because this is really the most important part of the whole situation, is to look at what you're doing and figure out how you can do it better. And then we'll briefly touch on strategy and implementation, and also the importance of measurement and review. A few years ago, I saw a biography on Emmitt Smith, the running back for the Dallas Cowboys, and he said something that's really stuck with me, and that is, if it's not written down, then it's just a dream. It's not a goal or an objective, it's just a dream. So think about that as we go through the presentation today. Okay, step 1, goal setting. Writing down your mid to long-term goals. That's a good way to start, but the key is make them realistic and measurable. If your business did 100 grand last year, don't set a goal to do $1 million this year. It's not really realistic unless you have a plan that you think is going to work, and there's every indication that it might. But basically, you have to be realistic. And the other thing is to make it measurable. So many times I talk to advisors and they say things like, "Oh, I want to grow, I want to get bigger, I want to buy a business," but they don't really define exactly what they're looking for. So it's very important to both be realistic and be able to measure. I want to bring in 10 million in assets this year, 20 million or whatever. I want to increase my revenue by 250,000, and then work from there as we go through. Okay, first part of a situation review is an operation audit. And it's basically taking an objective look at your own business. Try and identify the strengths and weaknesses. Again, your goals and objectives should be realistic and measurable. And remember the 3 valuation variables. And the other thing I always talk to advisors about is when you're looking at refining your business, think about who might buy it. Who's the perfect buyer? Who's going to pay you more for your business? And then you try and set it to that. And what I recommend is you just basically set up 4 columns. Very good, just okay, borderline, and not important or unfixable. Not important and unfixable, throw them out. And this will make more sense in the next couple of slides, by the way. And if it's borderline, you have to decide, do I need this? Do I want this? And then adjust your plan accordingly. Okay, and this is the way that I break it down. I break your business down into 4 different areas. And I'll just jump ahead a wee bit. One is your business fundamentals. We'll talk about that in a second. One is the operation of your business. Third is the demographics of your clients. And fourth is marketability. So we'll talk about each of those categories as it relates to your operational audit. Okay, number 1 is, what's your business model? And if you're not sure, then you're probably all over the map. And I look at these different categories. Basically, do you wake up in the morning, spin the Rolodex, and then go sell something? Or if you're a financial planner, do you take a kind of a sophisticated or a specific financial planning approach? And when I say that, I mean, everybody says they're a financial planner, but if you're not doing financial plans, if you're not selling insurance, and if you're not managing investments, et cetera, you're probably not really a financial planner, and you're going to fall under a different category. Relationship management. This is one that I think is becoming probably one of the most popular in Canada, and has been for several years in the US. And it's probably the most valuable for a few reasons. And that is, you manage the relationships of your clients. Somebody else is you're working with an investment manager for them. You may even be working with an insurance specialist for them, or a group specialist for the businesses. But what you're doing is you're nurturing that relationship with the client and making sure that their goals and objectives are being achieved. One of the things I see more in the US than in Canada is the specialist role. And that is, are you really good at one thing, or a couple of things? Are you able to specialize? Because that's going to be a different business model than any of the others, and as such has to be treated the same. I'll give you an example. If you're selling $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 premium insurance cases, or even more than that, it's very difficult to sell your business unless you train somebody, unless they're very capable, that type of thing, and continue your business on. Very narrow target market to sell your business. And so that's, and even family office. I hear that all the time. Oh, I'd like to have a family office. Well, that's a very, very a finite number of people that can actually do it, because you have to be in that market, and then have the resources to be able to do it effectively. In others, just kind of, you're not really sure where you want to go, and then I would definitely recommend find your strengths and move towards that. Goodwill transferability. This is the most important thing in the transition risk, because again, like if you're a specialist, that's personal goodwill, very difficult to transfer. If your business has a strong goodwill, a strong name brand, favorable rating with your clients, or I should say above average rating with your clients, your business has goodwill, and that's very important because that is transferable to the right person, obviously, but that target market would be a little broader than if it was just personal goodwill. So, and then there's lots of things where to build business goodwill that we'll get into in the operation side of the analysis, and also especially on marketing, those types of things. The third thing that is very important, and most advisors are weak in this particular area, and that's having clearly defined processes, where A, it should be in writing, B, it should be followed at all times, and C, staff and everybody should be on the same page. And there should be different defined processes, whether it's when you're selling a product, when there's a service process, how many times you're going to sit down with client A or client B, how many contacts, all of those things should be in writing. And the other thing I see rarely, especially with older advisors, is they don't have any prospect lists. They rely on referrals, and most of them don't get many referrals because they're not actively prospecting for them. So that there should be a process in place for that, even if you're 3 to 5 years away from selling your business and exiting, or that type of thing. Same with onboarding, bringing clients on, all the paperwork and everything like that. There should be clearly defined processes in place, especially if you have support staff, because you don't want to be sitting there filling out forms, for hours on end just to bring on a client. Okay, operations. This is a key part of any business, certainly that I look at. And the first thing is timely management information. I usually know if somebody has a good business model quickly. Hi, what were your revenue and expenses last month? I mean, some people don't do their books for a whole year, so how do you know really how you're doing? And it's an indication that you're probably not current with a lot of other management information that you should have. You should know how much money clients, or how much revenue clients are giving you. You should know how much time they are taking, those types of things. And it's very important to run a business to have current and accurate information so that you can make management decisions. Employees, so important, especially on the transition risk, because if you sell your business and I buy it, guess what? The most important person just became your employee, because the clients know that person. Hopefully they like them, and they've been around for a while, and they're well qualified. So the better the employee, the more your business is worth, frankly. And technology is another very important area, especially these days. And what I find there is most advisors don't have a clue what is considered current technology. You have to either be aware, be of what's going on in the marketplace, or have somebody that's working for you that is. And rather than try and be all things to all people, I find that it's much better to have somebody that's technologically aware and adept and can assist you in that area. The other thing is, a lot of advisors will buy technology, but they don't really make it functional. People pay a lot of money for a CRM or a database, or even an accounting software, investment analysis, et cetera, but they don't really use it to the best of what is out there, plus to make it a selling feature when they are talking to clients, because that in turn is going to make your business more valuable. And finally, the more in this area, the more of your dealer's software that you use, the less your business is worth, because that means they're just locking you in to sticking around, and which is fine as long as you're aware of that. And the biggest thing there is on a CRM, because if all your data on clients and prospects is in your dealer's CRM, then you're basically starting from scratch if you decided to leave. And it's very important, especially if you're with a smaller dealer, where when it comes down to selling your business, not a lot of people may want to move to that dealer, and there's not a lot of buyers at that dealer. Another area that I guess can always be improved is marketing and promotions. If you're looking at your own marketing and promotion operation, try and look at it from your target market. If you're dealing in the mid-market, there's no point in joining the most exclusive golf course in your city, unless of course you're trying to rank it up. But your marketing and your promotion should always be geared to your target market, as opposed to kind of what you like, though that can work too. I've known many people who have built a very successful business on different types of promotions. One business that I've worked with quite a bit built his whole business on snowmobiling, doing fundraisers, doing auctions, just inviting people out for a ride, those types of things, and literally built a very successful business from that. So there's nothing wrong with finding stuff that you enjoy and then getting your clients and prospects involved with that particular promotion. And it especially works well when your clients start bringing their friends, because they all want to go on a fishing trip, or they all want to go snowmobiling, and that can all obviously can work on the golf course, or where your niche is. Office is so important in your valuation. The location, the appearance, is there parking, and how many of your clients come to meetings at your office as opposed to having you go out. The higher the percentage, the more valuable. Keep in mind that as far as transition risk, clients are like most of us, and they don't like change. So the more things that aren't changing, the better it is. Same employees there, same location, same name of the business, the same processes are in place, or at least similar, or even better. All of those things are going to help keep clients around, both for you while you're operating and also if you're selling down the road. And finally, in this area, we look at the platform in the different products you're selling. And are they profitable? The products, are they profitable? If I see it all the time where somebody has a nice business, they have lots of investments, and they're selling individual insurance, and then they have a small percentage of their business is in group, and then they find out that they're losing their groups because it's become so competitive. You're much better off on those types of situations. Sell off the small group business, concentrate on where you're really making money, and same with the dealer you're on, the platform you're on. It's the same thing. If you're at a small company that's not offering all the products you need, you may want to consider alternative dealers, or alternative platforms, or alternative arrangements. I must be doing a good job. I haven't had a question yet. I wonder if we should have turned that on. Anyway, okay, we'll keep moving. Okay, finally, or not finally, but the third area is the demographics. Hard to change, but not impossible. But you should be aware of it, and this is all part of the management information also that I was talking about earlier, and that is you should know how many households you have. You should know how many assets, your average assets by household. You should know be able to break down the revenue for each household, and the profitability of if you're making $500 on somebody and you're spending 10, 12, 15 hours a year dealing with them, guess what? You're not making any money. And same with a breakdown of assets by age, especially now, as we all know, most of the older clients have most of the money, but you still should be aware of that. If your biggest clients are all in their 80s, you better be cultivating relationships with their family, or recognize that you're probably going to lose some of those assets, and it certainly makes them your business worth less. And client profile, very important. Again, age and average age, and also what's the career demographics of your clients? Are they all professionals? Are they all doctors? Are they all business people? Are they all plumbers? That type of thing. It's very important to know that, or be aware of that, because especially when it comes to designing a marketing or a promotion plan, that type of thing. And also, one of the things most advisors don't know is what's the average client's income? What's their household income? The more information you have about your clients, the better it is. And then obviously geography. If you have one client in Newfoundland and another one in Vancouver, that's not the most efficient way to manage a book. And believe it or not, I actually did some work with somebody in southern BC who had bought a small book in Newfoundland, and especially not even in St. John's, but in rural Newfoundland. It took them 2.5 days to get there. So those things are all important when you're looking at your business, you're valuing it. And I'm not even saying don't do that. Just be aware of what's involved, how much it's costing you, and how much revenue you're bringing in. And those asterisks, those stars, are I forgot to put on the slide, means they're the most important thing. Assets by household, the average age, and the breakdown of assets by age. Again, if your top 10 clients are all north of 75 and they have 80% of your business, you better start prospecting, or you're allowed to start losing assets over the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, and finally, marketability. How much demand is out there? How much supply for your business? Right now, it's definitely a seller's market. I usually joke that if you want to sell your business, you just have to yell out the window that you're selling and then tell them where to start the lineup. And that is true, though I will say this, I'm seeing less of that than I did certainly when I started 5 or 6, 7 years ago. It's still way more buyers than sellers, but businesses are changing, and there's lots of indications of that. Number one is dealers are buying businesses. They're buying their older advisors' businesses. I'm not saying they're forcing them out, but I think they are some are putting pressure on older advisors, especially ones who aren't growing their business. And is financing in place? We've been lucky the last few years. Interest rates are real low, and even the major banks were lending money to buy intangible businesses, which of course we are. So, and I think if interest rates were to go up, or if banks and everybody else decided to stop loaning money, then supply and demand would go from a seller's market to a buyer's market. So as the old saying is, if you're a buyer and you have